Yoda brothers, what's up? It's the director. Today we're talking about one of my favorite topics. We're talking about the power of the Madden Ultimate Team theme team. More specifically, 5 ways on how to fix theme teams in Madden 21. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, Siege, what's wrong with theme teams? Take a look at this 49ers theme team. This thing is absolutely stacked. You would be absolutely, so happy to run into head-to-head with all of these stacks upon stacks of starters. Now, that may be the case for the 49ers theme teams, but that's not the case for a lot of other theme teams. Now, I know it's football. I know it's the NFL. I know some teams will always be better than other teams. Some are, in the basement and they don't have a lot of hope for a while. But this is an ultimate team. This is where you go to fantasize about what if the Bengals had a really stacked roster in 2019? What would that have looked like? This is where you go to fantasize about your team being competitive in a Super Bowl. Not to say that I'm trashing on anybody's specific teams or anything, but the reality of it is you didn't make the Super Bowl. I didn't make the Super Bowl. The Chargers didn't make the Super Bowl. And that's okay because we have a game like Madden Ultimate Team to come to live those fantasies. Now, the importance of theme teams is beginning a little more ridiculous every single year. As you know, if you run a specific squad with a lot of players that played on the same team, you're going to get a lot of added benefits, being it different chemistries, boosts, just to make those players better. Every year there seems to be like a meta of theme team. This year being the 49ers, the Ravens, the Raiders. Some of those we see repeat more often than not. But the reason you're going to want to run these teams is because it gives you a better advantage on head-to-head in winning actual games, a better competitive edge by running a good theme team. So if you're like me and you run, a Chargers theme team, we got a lot of holes, man. We got a lot of things that aren't really great about this team, specifically wide receiver. We need new running backs. The biggest strength in our team is probably tight end, and that's not going to get you too far on head-to-head. So a lot of us have been doing is mixing our team, the team that we follow in real life football, with a team that has an exceptionally good Madden Ultimate Team theme team. Now, is that cool? I guess some people don't mind that. Go ahead and mix, a Chargers team with like a 49ers team and have some fun with it. But there's a lot of us that nostalgically want to see players from our own team make it into the end zone, make big plays on defense. That's kind of what I'm here to try and help fix in Madden 21. So the first thing that I want to address, and we're going to pull up some fun little graphics here. It's going to be kind of like the director's slideshow today. The first thing that we can do to help the average theme team succeed in Madden Ultimate Team is to take these cards that we grind for throughout a season. Take Pat Tillman, for example. Everybody gets a Pat Tillman as their Mutt Master. Mutt Master is a long, tradition of Madden Ultimate Team. It's a great way to keep people engaged and kind of give people that, play the game very periodically some kind of reward, for their loyalty. And that's one huge thing that Pat Tillman does for us. Great card. Amazing. Legendary player. Fantastic selection for this year. Problem is, really only fits on Cardinals themed teams, and this is gonna be like that territory where I feel like people are gonna get mad at me, like, director, how dare you? Why would I want to see the cards, famous Pat Tillman with a LA Rams logo slapped on his card? I get it, dude, totally understand that, but from the perspective of just a video game and helping balance things out so people have advantages and disadvantages and there's no huge right or left, I think it'd be awesome if these cards would host every single team chemistry. Do you understand? Like, if all of us knew that Pat Tillman, this card that we're grinding for all season, could get your Bengals chem, could get your Browns chem, could get every single chem in the game, that would kind of incentivize you to keep him on your squad, would it not? And for somebody like me, who has like Derwin James, one of the better strong safeties in the game, I still would want this guy on my team, man. He's still on my team right now because he's my strong safety. That plays out deep, and then I've got Derwin James in nickel coverages and stuff like that. That's exactly what I would like to see. Just give you more options. Gives you more options to better fill out, some teams maybe don't have a strong safety. And then Pat Tillman, what the result of that would be, which maybe with this is a bad example because everybody runs Pat Tillman, at least at the beginning, is that Pat Tillman would have like way more exposure on head-to-head. So some of these players that maybe you wouldn't select, and we'll get to another program here, it would absolutely incentivize you not to go grab Ryan Shazier without a thought. Now, Ryan Shazier is one of the best cards in the game. You should absolutely pick up Ryan Shazier. But let's say your team, your actual theme team has a really good duo of middle linebackers, and you don't really need Shaz, but you don't want to be at a disadvantage because you didn't pick Shaz. Does that make sense? So let's say your team is really weak at tight end, or really weak at wide receiver like the Chargers are, or really weak at cornerback. Why don't we pick up a Ryan Shays, or why don't we pick up a Ty Law at cornerback? He gets your specific team's chem, and you can play him at the position very similarly. And people get mad at me, but like, they already do this. Night Train Lane can get any team chem. Kurt Warner could get any team chem. All I'm suggesting is that we take away the all team chems for these promo cards, and we give them to the cards that people grind for. And with stuff like the Mutt Captains promo, you've got 4 options here that you could choose strategically to help the weaknesses that your theme team already has. So for me, yes, I would choose Ryan Shazier in a heartbeat, or I would choose Herman Moore, because those are 2 weak positions on the Chargers. Similarly, maybe Series Masters. I pull up Joey Bosa for a reason. What if Joey Bosa could get a Raiders chem? Blah! That sounds horrible, but at the same time, I will get to see more Joey Bosas in head-to-head. I see more Joey Bosa love in head-to-head, and that makes me excited. What if Joey Bosa was one of those cards that helped every theme team? I'm sure there's not a lot of theme teams that are hurting at left end, defensive end, whatever, but if there are, why don't we let Joey Bosa help those individuals out? I like that. And then lastly, the level masters that we see all the time. Torrey Holt, wide receiver. I would kill to be able to put a Chargers wide receiver chem on Torrey Holt, a Chargers team chem. That would be amazing. And especially for these skill position players, you know, like your wide receivers, like your cornerbacks, like your halfbacks, those guys, not every team has what your team has. Does that make sense? So for guys like me, maybe even the Broncos, you know, we don't have wide receivers. And if we have this card that we're already dedicated and we're kind of being rewarded with for being so dedicated to the game, fit on our theme team, I dig it, man. I dig it. Some people really don't like the idea of all team camps. Totally understand that too. If you're totally against it, just come in here and hound my ass in the comment sections, dude. I totally understand. But I don't know if everybody shares that same opinion. And I think there's a lot of us that would love to see more all team camps added to the game. And specifically for me, in these cards that we all grind for. Because then there would be a bigger reason to keep them on your squad. You get to save some coins. The incentive on keeping this player on your team is there. So that's point number 1. I know I'm gonna try to make sure this video isn't too long, but that was probably one of the biggest points right there. Point number 2. Let's see if we can move on to our next graphic here. Oh, power-ups. This is a big one, dudes. Power-ups. Now, power-ups, you would say, what does this have to do with theme teams? Well, you Mutt veterans know exactly what I'm talking about. Power-ups for these specific players that are blessed with a power-up. These are some of the only guys that are allowed to use team chems from other teams that they've already played for. Now, this covers a bigger issue for Madden 21 that I'll probably cover in a later video, but I think power-ups, I think every card in the game should have a base power-up, being the first card, their lowest card released in the game. So for example, if you wanted, let's say, an Xavier Howard, you see him there in the bottom left side of the screen. If you want an Xavier Howard, you would have to go pick up his base silver card. Maybe silver cards are gone. Maybe silver cards are no more. Every card is a power-up card when it very starts off. So you go find the very first step in Xavier Howard's progression, his very first card, his lowest card, and then you can use that to power up to the next level. While he gets new cards, you can continue to power him up. I know that seems like maybe it's a lot of work for EA. I don't know what the process is of making these power up cards, because it seems like they only release them every so often, and it makes it like, it seems like a really big deal as far as how much work goes into it. But just as a fan, like just as an average guy, isn't there an algorithm or something that we can use to like auto progress these cats? And then if there's anything broken, if there's like, you know, if all of a sudden Vita Vea is out there absolutely destroying everybody, the Madden team would have the foresight to be like, oh my God, okay, let's go ahead and address that. Let's tune it a little bit. You know, the algorithm screwed up with this one guy. Let's not ruin it for, you know, the other 30 guys that could have, you know, problems at his same position. So that's all I'm saying, is that I think every single card in the game should have a power-up card, so that I feel like when a card comes out that's really good, like DK Metcalf, for example, that's a great card, but no power-up. So not everyone's going to want to use it. A free 95 overall, that's great for promo. That's great, you know, publicity. But if he doesn't have a power-up, then what's the point? What's the point? So yes, power-ups are a big deal for the director. I want to continue to see power-ups come out. But more importantly, in Madden 21, I want to see every single player have a power-up card, starting with their base item. And in that way, that would help theme teams tremendously, because any player that had played for your team at one point, playing for another squad, you can go ahead and put your team chemistry on that specific item. Let's see. Here we go. Point number 3. Pay closer attention to teams who do not have a large number of movers. Like chems, for all of these other, huge, vast amount of other teams like the Niners and the Raiders. It seems that at one point, back in the day, before you retired, it was almost required to go through Oakland or San Francisco, and the same goes for a lot of other teams. So naturally, every single year, if you're a fan of of San Francisco 49ers, if you're a fan of the Oakland Raiders, you're going to have a great team. That's great. Good on you. I'm not like bashing on you guys for having good teams. I think that's awesome, but I want that same feeling to be shared between more Madden players, not as dramatically because you guys earned it. You've had some of the best players in NFL history on your team at one point, but for everybody else who gets excluded from that. And again, I'm going to use my team because I know my team. I pay closest attention to the Chargers. We got one legend in the Legends promo this year. One. And that was Kellen Winslow. Love Kellen Winslow. That's great. The Raiders, at some point, I've counted up all of the legends that would fit on their team, and I think for the Chargers, it was like 3 through the Legends promo. You guys had something like 26, and then it got kind of crazy when we got the team builders, the team diamonds, and stuff like that. Just went off the rails. So we know that teams like the Raiders and the Niners are going to have great teams every single year. Can we encourage the foresight by EA to include, players of other teams that don't have a lot of those movers passing into their Legends promo? So, Randy Moss and those pack sealers will always be there. Niners fans, Raiders fans will enjoy that. But there's going to be other teams that haven't had a lot of Legends. Let's think of like newer franchises, the Jaguars, the Panthers, the Texans. Those guys haven't had the opportunity to get a crap ton of Legends like the rest of us. So maybe having the foresight to make sure that there's a bit of an evener distribution of broad spectrum theme teams rather than just focusing on the same every single year. And that's a pretty big ask because that's asking a lot of changes coming from the Legends promo. But I'm not saying take away from the Niners or the Raiders. I'm just saying that make sure that all teams feel somewhat represented. Because guys like me, Chargers, it would have been nice to have a LaDainian Tomlinson. It would have been nice to have a Sean Merriman. It would have been nice to have this, and that. And all of us could say that. But it would have been nice to have anything, really, is what I'm trying to say. And to see, everybody else, especially these select few teams, Ravens, Raiders, Niners, have so many options. It's a bit discouraging for me as a Madden consumer to feel like I'm not being cheated just a little bit. Even though I'm not, those guys, they have every right. But at the same time, make sure other teams are represented. I'm sure there's a lot of other teams that are feeling the same way. Now let's move this along. We're almost done here, guys. Point number 4. Let's get back to the graphics. Coach Madden. Now I bring up Coach Madden, and this is probably the most sensitive one, even for me. I'm not a Raiders fan. I'm a Chargers fan. I have a bit of a bias against them, but this is the man, like a best NFL coach of all time. And imagine with me for a second that he could have any team chem. Any team chem. A lot of Raiders fans, I'm sure, are slinging shit at their computer right now, like director STFU. That's disrespectful. Yes and no. I mean, John Madden's representing his legacy in the game for a reason, and that's great. John Madden had a broad view of what this game could be for all NFL fans. And to commemorate that, we have a Coach Madden master coaching item that everybody can grind towards. It's something that we take a lot of time and resources focusing on upgrading throughout the year. Now, in order to use him, though, you have to sacrifice your current team coach, which comes with its own benefits in order to fit John Madden in there. So what if we lived in a world where John Madden had any team chem, right, including the Raiders, which he currently does not have, and you could add those specific team upgrade chemistries to Coach Madden. So for example, right now, if you were to max out everything you could on both of the uniforms and the stadium, you would get a total of 30 out of 40 chems. Now, that's not going to get you the max benefits of what you could see if you decide to use your team's coach rather than Coach Madden. I think people who grind for Coach Madden deserve all of the benefits in the world, because this is not an easy thing to do, especially this year. Coach Madden is hard to acquire. I think the best of the best deserve a bit of a pat on the back at the most maximum reward possible. And to do that, you need to get the rewards of what, or the benefits of what Coach Madden would bring you and what your team's coach would give you. So if I were to put, if I were a Raiders fan and I had Raiders chem on Coach Madden, or let's say I was a Chiefs fan because it's a different franchise, and I had Chiefs chem on Coach Madden, along with all he gives me with like the +1 speed, the +1 to all these different attributes, but at the same time it counted towards my team chems that I've already completed 30 out of 40 on my uniforms and on my stadium, then I think that incentivizes the player to really go after John Madden, because a lot of people say to themselves, I don't need John Madden, I can just go get my own coach and I get the +1 speed. It shouldn't just be about the +1 speed, it should be about the grind. It should be about the dedication that it takes to get Coach Madden. And I think that's as far as okay, then the Coach Madden benefits and stuff like that. And I think the last thing I wanted to cover was just pay better attention. Point number 5. Madden was 4. Point number 5. Pay better attention to team needs for promos like theme builders. So I'm going to use, again, the Chargers as an example, because I know the situation of my team on Madden Ultimate Team. We have a crisis at wide receiver. Our fastest wide receiver currently is Keenan Allen. That comes with stock 90 speed and a 97 overall. Now you try and take that into head-to-head and dominate. It's going to be really difficult if you're not running a Chargers theme team, and if you haven't dedicated an X factor and ability slot to Keenan Allen, which I do because I'm a Chargers fan. If the team builders or like the team diamonds and those kinds of promos really paid attention to what that team naturally lacks at this point, in their existence in the NFL, then they would know that the Chargers need help at wide receiver. And funny enough, we have good wide receivers, just not good Madden wide receivers. Mike Williams would be great if he ever got an upgrade. That's something that they could do, the foresight to be like, hey, the Chargers don't have any wide receivers, guys. Keenan is so slow, it hurts the director's brain and heart and soul. Like, we got to give him some help out here. So let's make sure we push Mike Williams into the foreground, into the front light, so that he gets a good card to help the director and all other Chargers fans with their theme team. That way I don't have to stress out about what I'm doing with wide receiver for a while. And the same can be said for everybody's theme team. Maybe other than the Raiders, the Niners, and the Chiefs, all those kinds of guys. Just in the comment section below, where are you lacking on your theme team right now? If you got a card tomorrow, who would you want it to be? Because to help your theme team specifically, there's going to be a lot of guys that need offensive linemen, which I'm okay with putting other teams' offensive line on my team. I want the skill position players to be making the plays, be scoring the touchdowns. I just want to know from you guys who you would need. If EA needed help in their foresight to, okay, this team needs help at this position, who would it be for your squad? Let me know in the comment section below. But that's going to be it for the 5 ways on how to fix theme teams in Madden 21. Maybe it's not too late for Madden 20. Who knows? I think it is. But just keep these in mind for Madden 21. I think it would be a lot funner because you wouldn't be forced to be running a specific theme team that's the best that happens to be that year. The Niners, the Raiders, the Chiefs, all these guys, in some of these cases it's earned, like the Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl. The Niners participated in the Super Bowl. The Raiders have a really good and rich history in football. But I don't know if every year having the best theme team is what is right for the game. Again, it's so hard to say this because I don't want Raiders fans to think I'm taking anything away from them. But I just make sure that there's equal representation to other teams in the same. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you guys like me, think I'm a cool guy, hit me up with a like and sub. We're trying to build this channel. And looking forward to hitting that 10K sub. I'm very excited about it. Help me get there. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Director, and as always, stay frosty and help the Chargers theme team. Oh my God, please help. Last chance, 4th and long, finding the will to bolt up. Bundle up, cause we stay frosty. I take my frosty, chocolate, vanilla, or swirl. Mutt Master, YouTuber, come on, let's give it a whirl. Mutt Madden, Twitch streamer, put the snowman to shame. Staying frosty's the only way we stay alive in this game. They're reffing the match, Director's directing the game. Scared of my underdog team, them gods will be slain.